This is my video on the political socialization of young Quebecers. There is declining voter turnout in local, provincial, and federal elections in Canada. The decline is particularly staggering among young Canadians. Quebec is no exception to this rule. One of the possible causes of this decline is lack of interest in politics. One way that voters determine their interest in politics is by talking about government and politics with their family, friends, and others. I will refer to this phenomenon as political socialization because that is how the questions which address this phenomenon are referred to in the survey that I used in this study. Higher education and higher income are both positively correlated with higher voter turnout among young Canadians. Of the two, education has the single greatest effect. Likewise, being born in Canada is also positively correlated with higher voter turnout, given the literature on the relationship between interest and turnout. Similar relationships have been observed for political socialization, though they tend to be weaker than for voter turnout. My research question is as follows. What best explains differences in the political socialization of young Quebecers? This study uses data from Elections Canada's National Youth Survey, which was conducted in the 5 weeks following the 2011 Canadian federal election. The National Youth Survey includes 2,665 respondents between the ages of 18 and 34. This study focuses on the 413 of those respondents who live in Quebec. The dependent variable for this study is the degree of political socialization. I used multiple indicators to build an index to serve as my dependent variable. There are 4 questions in the National Youth Survey that measure respondents' political socialization. The question asks whether the respondent discusses politics with his or her partner or spouse, friends, family, and colleagues. Since both the alpha and standardized item alpha exceed 0.60, this indicates that the components of the index are strongly correlated and thus appropriate to be used as an index. I will now describe the 3 hypotheses that I test in this study. My first hypothesis is that respondents born in Canada will be more likely to have a high degree of political socialization. My second is that respondents with a higher level of education will be more likely to have a high degree of political socialization. My third is that respondents with a higher income will be more likely to have a high degree of political socialization. Both the cross-tabulation and analysis of variance of my first independent variable and my dependent variable indicate that there is not a very strong relationship between being born in Canada and having a higher degree of political socialization. However, there appears to be a strong relationship between my second independent variable and my dependent variable, which indicates a relatively strong relationship between being better educated and having a higher degree of political socialization. Likewise, there appears to be a reasonably good relationship between my third independent variable and my dependent variable. However, there are some limitations to this conclusion, since young Quebecers earning more than $40,000 appear more likely to have low or moderate political socialization, according to my index, than those earning between $20,000 and $40,000. My results differ from the literature mostly in terms of the first hypothesis, which suggested a relationship between being born in Canada and having a higher degree of political socialization. Now, the column percentages indicated a relationship, but the relationship wasn't statistically significant. Likewise, the third hypothesis is also partially violates the results that are set out in the literature. So my results suggest that there may be other factors that have greater influence on the political socialization of Quebecers than the ones I examined in this study. This points to the need for a wider study of the determinants of political socialization, which would consider a wider range of factors, including the impact of civics education, since this has been one mechanism that has been proposed in order to address political socialization.